Welcome to the Life Giving Leader Podcast. Well, hello everyone. It's Tyler here, and before we jump into this episode, I was putting the finishing touches on it. It's already been recorded, and this is the morning after the two men in South Georgia who murdered Ahmaud were arrested. I just couldn't let this episode go on without just saying something on my own behalf. And I live in the state of Georgia, been around and seen, how the Deep South has continually been in the news. And I know that racism is everywhere, but I also know that in the Deep South it tends to be it's been a hotbed for it and a focus spot. And I just need to say that I'm grateful for the voices that came out, and yet these voices can't just be right now. We have to stand and fight against this injustice. Just like everyone that's gotten behind trafficking and things like, these really horrific things. And so before we just get started, I just wanted to pray for us today. And again, I would ask you just to maybe pray with me, because we have to do better. And it's not enough for 2 months to go by for someone who was completely killed in daylight out of hatred, out of people that believe that they have more worth than someone else. And if you ever believe that, then you are automatically in the wrong. No one has more value than another person. And so, I don't know. I just felt like before we started this episode, we just needed to take a second and pray for our country and pray that God would continue to restore and redeem some of the hate that lives within our country. So I'm going to pray quick, and then we're going to get started with this episode with Joe Saxton. Lord, we love you, and we come to you. We're grateful for you. We're grateful for Jesus. And as a white male who sits here and knows that a lot of my life was protected because it seems that racism flows certain directions more consistently than others. I just want to ask that you would give me eyes to see and a heart to pursue what's right, to pursue justice and stand up for those. No one, God, that we come eyeball to eyeball with has any less worth than the person to their right or to their left. And would you help us see that and live that and believe that? In Jesus' name, amen. All right, let's get started. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Life Giving Leader Podcast. This is episode 3 for those of you keeping track at home. And I don't know, I keep wanting to go back to, it's really episode 2, but we're just going to move on. We're going to keep trucking. I kept wrestling with, do I get rid of the trailer? No. Episode 1 was the trailer. Episode 2, Jefferson Bethke last week. Thanks for all of you who listened. This week, Joe Saxton. Longtime friend. I can't wait to tell you more, introduce you to Joe. It's going to be great. But this episode is brought to you again by my friends at Retro 8 Films. Again, I mentioned this. If you're not telling your story, someone else is, and it's most likely your competitors. My friends at Retro 8 Films have helped guide me and some of the biggest companies on the planet through creating the most innovative, creative, meaningful content and video that endears people to brands. I'm telling you, they're the best. I've watched them do it with Delta. I've watched them do it with real estate groups and all these different groups who they're just able to come in, hear your voice, understand what's in your head, and execute that in a way that creates incredible stories. So don't waste any more time or money on video content that doesn't convert and elevate your brand to beautiful films and tell your story. So retro8films.com. Get to know those people really well. They're some of the best people on the planet. Here's the thing about production and people, and if any of you guys are listening or production people, there are some incredibly skilled production tech people who you don't really like to be in the room with. Retro 8 Films, Ryan Shove, the team, they are the opposite of that. They are crazy talented, but you want to be in the room with them because they are so fun and so kind. And so go check them out, retro8films.com. So I can't even believe I get to do a second one of these. This is pretty awesome. The response last week was fantastic. I'm overwhelmed and grateful to all my friends who were willing to post, all of you who aren't friends yet because we don't know each other, but we've gotten to know each other, who were willing to post and share, and really excited because this thing got some legs really early on. So we're just going to keep plugging away. I have finished the first 12 episodes in terms of recording the guest, and man, here's the thing. For those of you that listen, a little sneak peek, I got 2 bonus episodes. So I got 12 plus 2 bonus ones that are going to sneak out anytime in the next 12 weeks. So every Tuesday in the morning, it's going to be live. We're going to have a new episode for you. And then occasionally a couple little bonus episodes coming your way, one in the next 2 weeks. So here's what I got. I want to say this. I forgot to mention it last week. For those of you listening and wondering, is this the most professional sounding podcast that you've ever listened to? The answer is going to be a resounding, hopefully close, but not really. Most of the time I'm recording on Zoom. I had a call with a guest this week who's in the UK. The first week was with Jefferson Bethke in Hawaii. So there's going to be times that the audio clicks. There's going to be times it's not perfect. And I just want you to know there's not a lot of ways around it. All of us that do this stuff understand that it is technology. It is a stream. I am literally beyond fascinated with the fact that I can have a conversation with someone in the UK in real time. And the fact that occasionally the audio catches up or skips, that doesn't bother me a bit, and it shouldn't bother you either. So prepare for that occasionally in these recordings. I'm learning as we go. It's been a little while. I'm a production guy at heart. I still love production. So for me to get back in and edit and produce has been a lot of fun. But DM me, send me messages. Let me know what we can do better, what you get excited about. What else do you want to learn? If you have questions, leadership thoughts, I think one of the things I want to do on a consistent basis is answer 1 or 2 leadership questions that are coming in from the listeners and make sure I understand and work through some of these things together. So send me a DM at Tyler Reagin, Reagin, on social media, and let's go from there. Let's connect. So a couple other things. If you're liking it, and again, I know it's fresh, I know it's new, trying to create something where you're proud to be a listener, kind of proud to be part of this community, would you rate it on iTunes for me? Would you share it with your friends? Would you be willing to post about it? Because that's a win-win-win all the way around. And if you even want to leave, obviously a very kind. I don't do well with criticism. No, I'm just kidding. Share what you need to, but let's be kind, guys. Life-giving stuff here. Okay. So we got Joe Saxton this week. Next week is pretty awesome. I have to admit, this week is awesome. Of course, I think they're all awesome. Next week, you don't want to miss. I've got Kevin Olasola, the beatboxer from Pentatonics, cello beatboxer. First came on the scene in the Gunger video, if you remember that. Did a couple other things. It was a YouTube sensation. Next thing you know, he hooks up with Pentatonics. They go on the TV show. And, now they're 3 Grammys and 10 million albums in. Kevin is a believer. He's an incredible leader. If you're ever at Catalyst, say 7-8 years ago, he would come and do some stuff with us creatively where he'd play cello and beatbox. So Kevin is going to be on the Life Giving Leader podcast with his friend Donovan Donnell, life coach, incredible leader. They're doing some amazing things for the community, faith community in Los Angeles, and the creative specifically. So next week's going to be all about creativity, about music, about creating things. So make sure you tune in next week and get your friends on board. So I'm going to move us on into this interview without much further ado, because the one and only Joe Saxton, one of my favorite people. She's an author. She's a speaker. She's a podcast host. She's a leadership coach. Dare I say, she's a legend. What I love about Joe is also what I love about this interview specifically. She's fierce and fights for what's right, but she does it with grace and humility. She communicates that way. She cares that way. She loves that way, and she fights that way. I was challenged. I'm inspired by her leadership every time I'm around her. So, without further ado, here's my conversation with the one and only Joe Saxton. So welcome back to the Life Giving Leader podcast. And today, I don't know if you know this, but this will be the first female leader gracing
the ears of the Life Giving Leader podcast. And I don't think there could be a more appropriate conversation or leader. Joe Saxton is on. I'm trying to decide, by the way, Joe, if you're on the horn, if you're on the line, if you're on the phone, like what would we say in a Zoom scenario? What do you think?
I mean, we could just say on Zoom.
Okay, but that's not as fun though, because they're not watching it on Zoom.
That's
but
true.
Joe Saxton, leader, pastor, wife, mom, incredible. Honestly, one of my favorite communicators I've ever gotten to listen to. Been a part of our Catalyst family for years. And we just became friends through that relationship. And it's been super fun to watch you. So thanks for being on the podcast, Joe.
Thank you for having me. So much fun.
And it's not fair, by the way, to the rest of the podcast people that'll come on because they don't have your accent. So now I am going to interview Ken Costa. So maybe the two
there you go.
each other a run for your money.
There you go. Ken is awesome.
So Joe, give us a little bit of biographical information. In other words, for those that might not know you, like, you're a communicator, you just released a new book, and you used to work with some different organizations. Talk us a little bit about kind of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I'm Nigerian in heritage, grew up in London, and over the years, I think I've worked in a number of spaces and found find the relationships that work well and stay kind of thing. So for me, I didn't actually plan on going into Christian leadership, to be honest. I don't
think most of us do, right?
I know people are like, same girl, same. And, but I began, in some ways, my leadership journey was working at a church, and I was the youth pastor for a while. I was the college pastor, and I wasn't a great youth pastor. I mean, I love teenagers. I think they're fantastic. But I think part of it was I wasn't even sure quite whether, like if you're not sure whether you should be leading, that messes up your entire leadership anyway. Do you know what I mean? If you're second guessing, then it's hard to show up. And I was second guessing a lot in that area of my life. Then I became a pastor for the college students, and that went, and we started planting congregations, and I think it just opened up a whole level of things that was different for me, and was speaking at our church regularly by that point. And so the communicator side developed a lot in the context of our community, in the context of planting, in the context of us losing buildings at very short notice and having to scramble for new options.
Did you like the communicating? Was that something that brought life to you? Was it scary?
Yeah, it was both.
Yeah.
Yes to all of the above. It was terrifying, and it was vulnerable because it was amongst my peers.
Gotcha.
It was quite a young adult church, but I loved it, and I loved the senior pastor was an incredible communicator. So some of it was, Lord, please don't let me be terrible, because I don't want to see on someone's eyes when people are when people are speaking, there's that look on the face when they wish it was somebody else, and I'm like, Lord, I don't want to see that on their faces when I get up.
Yep.
So help me be good. That was my prayer.
Right.
And just I guess just learned along the way, really. And then when we moved to the States about 16 years ago, a group of us from that church were serving another church, which was really hard and didn't go well. And then and out of that, an organization called 3D Movements was born, which was working with churches doing discipleship and mission. So served in different contexts then, ended up chairing the board of that, and then launching from that after when it was, frankly, just when it was time to do other stuff. So yeah.
How did you know it was time? That's a leadership question, because I remember last summer when I was wrestling with leaving Catalyst and hand that over, I had a pastor look at me and said, one of the ways I've learned when it's time was when I feel God's grace, not on the thing, but on me, gone in a sense.
Yep.
And, the things that were normal business, normal life that you had patience and grace for is gone. Was that a similar scenario for you?
Very much so. Very much so. And it didn't make sense because I believed in all the things I'd been doing. But, and also I felt like I was in the way. I felt like it was in the way of innovations and ideas. And I knew at the chapter that I was leading 3DM that I was mainly there to hold the baton and not let it drop.
Yeah.
It had been a difficult time, and I felt called to it before anybody had asked me, which was irritating because I would have, in my humanness, I'd have said no. I'd have been like, we're done. I'd have said no, but I felt like it was what God asked me to do, and I felt I was to hold it. But I think the thing I knew it wasn't going to be a long-term thing.
Yeah.
But that thing about the grace going was one piece. Another thing was there were ideas emerging, and I knew it wouldn't be right to put them in that space because do you know what I mean? And to put my own agenda in there.
Yeah.
That's not what they were set aside for. And that's not what their work was. And so I would see this, be faithful to this thing in one hand, and yet tending to this bubbling, emerging vision. And I'd spent years of my life serving other people's visions, and and I was more than happy to do that. It's what I was called. But there was this moment when I began to feel like I didn't quite resent it, but I felt that there were other things to be said.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for a while, I just pushed it back. And then I thought, actually, no, this is actually the Lord telling me I need to do some other things.
Yeah. And it is that feeling of, I feel like I'm holding it back now. Like that's a really strong sense that leaders have to be discerning for, because it's honoring to love the people that are coming after you by saying, you know what, like, I don't have any new ideas for this. I've given it all I got, and you shouldn't have to keep honoring me. Like, let's just move on. God's got some good things for you, and he's got good things for me.
Absolutely. And I think it was there was a moment where it's like, you have to be secure enough to get out of the way. Get out of the way, because like you say, I have served and loved this thing for a long time. I have nothing new to give, fresh out of ideas. And I'm seeing people who I've invested in coming up with ideas which would take it in new places and where they were energized by it. And I just thought, I am going to be the bottleneck if I don't get out.
That's exactly right.
And sometimes people don't honestly admit that you're the bottleneck because they love you and they're faithful.
Because they love you
and stuff. And it's like, I'm going to break up with you because you're not going to let me break up with you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It's not me, it's you, Joe.
You know what I mean? It's that sort of thing. I'm going to have to stop. And in fairness, because it was the kind of community of people I've been working with over the years, it wasn't a kind of, I've had this new idea, guys. It was a discerning process. So I'm like, hey, guys, this is what I'm sensing. I want you to go away and pray about it. And they're like, we don't like it, but we're sensing it too. And stuff. And said, so let's do the thing with the right timing that honors you, that honors everybody. And they're like, what do you want to do? Would you consider coming back to do other things? And I said, I'm not considering anything for a year, because let's not, if we're going to do this, let's do this properly. And so even though this sense in me of, I felt this, but it's a way, it wasn't an individual discernment process, because I don't know about you, but I'm not great at discerning on my own. I need someone to test
collaboration.
I need someone to, because you get a sense about something, but sometimes your application isn't on point or your timing isn't on point. So I needed people who would process the application of this stirring within me and the timing, because you overcook it and it's terrible, you undercook it and it's terrible, and we needed the timing to be right.
Well, just for honoring and stewardship and those kind of things. But there's so many leaders that stayed way too long.
Oh gosh,
and it kills things.
It kills things, and it kills people. It hurts. It kills leaders. It kills their leadership and their gift.
And I love what you said, because I felt the very same thing of just, they loved me, but I would come in, if they had new ideas, it was like they felt like they had to tippy toe around where I was. So that's just such a good, and I hope leaders that are listening that are maybe in that season, just kind of wrestling, pay attention for some of these signs. And now, did you tell them, Joe, when you left, that you were just going to date Jesus for a season, or how did that go?
I told them, I mean, I think they saw that other things were springing up in my life, and they saw that it was time to attend to that. And so they knew that was going to happen. And I'd already begun to, because, and there were certain things like that I felt I had to do in terms of stepping out of the way, because it's never, or at least for me, it's never been a good idea to hold on to something because of the money. But I wasn't earning. I felt from the very beginning when I was leading it, wasn't to earn an income from it. So I thought, well, clearly, Lord, you're going to provide, and clearly this is not going to be long term. But do you know what I mean? And so there were certain pieces in that moment, but they it was just this sense of, when we were talking about it, they were like, as your people, as your family, as your community, we know that you need to go and start something new. So we are set. It was more like they commissioned me. I mean, it was amazing. They gathered round and they said, these are the things. And it was, sometimes I find the word honor one of this kind of weird weird words that people don't use in any other context. I'm like, be consistent. But I think on another level, I felt like what they did was they blessed me. They spoke God's grace and kindness over me. They talked about the value and stuff. And then they said, okay, now it's time. And now let's go. And when our let's go is we move forward into this mission and you move forward into that mission.
That's great.
And so I couldn't have asked for it to transition in a better way.
That's awesome. So this is leadership. That's something I love to talk about. And for me, when you hear not for me, for you, when you hear the term a life-giving leader, what's one or two attributes that come to mind pretty quickly when you would think of someone who leads like that?
I think the life-giving thing reminds me of the impact they have on others, that they invest in others. Yeah. And that they give life to others. They see life in others and actively bring out somebody else's potential. So I think of it in terms of their impact, in terms of multiplying leadership. I also think of what they bring when they walk into a room. Do you know what I mean? Like leaders define the culture of us.
Absolutely.
And they set a tone. For me, a life-giving leader walks into a room and people aren't automatically afraid of them.
Yeah, that's good.
A life-giving leader walks into a room and other people are allowed to have ideas, and they don't have to be yes people to them. They don't have to lose a part of who they are to be acceptable to that person, because this person brings life. They don't bring control. They don't bring, they bring leadership, but they don't bring that kind of controlling sense of only these type of people fit at this table. If you're not this kind of person, you're not welcome here. When I think of a life-giving leader, they see that I think it takes the pressure. When I think of a life-giving leader, it takes the pressure off of trying to have to make yourself small and non-threatening in order to be able to be in their presence, because they're secure in who they are.
Yeah, that's good. And why does that matter for the faith-based community?
I mean, one, let's be like Jesus.
So there's that.
So there's that. Let's be like Jesus as we lead. And like you, I believe that as people of faith, that we have this commission to be part of what God is doing in making all things new. We are and stuff, and we're bringing his life. We are ambassadors for him, and we are somehow reflecting him, so that whether we are working in the church or in the world, people see a glimpse of what the kingdom of God is like, the upside down kingdom. They see a glimpse of the things that God cares about. They see the hands and feet of Jesus, and we need that right now. Yeah. So I think for me, that is why it's important for us to be like, because we've got a lot to do. We've got a big job.
And we need to do it right, don't we?
And we need to do it in a way that brings his life and models his life and inspires his life and his creativity, and reflects that people are made in his image. And as we, whether they're Christians or not, that we recognize that humanity is made in the image of God.
And you have your own leadership podcast. You and I, like when we're together, this is like, we literally talk about this.
This is our conversation.
It is, basically. We love it. But that's really probably what drove you to write your most recent book. And now, Joe, you're talking about women in leadership and what that looks like in some of these layers. I want to ask you a question about one of the words, but I mean, isn't this subject like it's over, right? Like it's been accomplished. Everybody has the right views on women in leadership. Like, I hope you sense the sarcasm, but it you know what I mean? It's 2020. Like, are we really still having to get deep into the hearts of women, saying, "Hey, you go lead"? I mean, is that really true?
Yeah, it is. It is. I think, and
Joe, you know that I'm being sarcastic.
Oh yeah, I do. I do.
It's kind of crazy, but I love that you're not afraid to go. Let's go. We're not going to back off on this. Yeah.
I mean, and I think there are multiple reasons why we need to look at this again. One, women hold up, as the proverb says, women hold up half the sky. And as said earlier, made in the image of God. So what does that mean? Now, I appreciate that there is a range, a full range of theological conviction on this.
Sure.
But I would say within the framework of your theological conviction, you still need to look at what this means.
Yes.
And look at whether your processes, like, and what's that? You know that book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. He says you don't rise. On my desk. I know, me too. you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And I want to ask whether your systems, the processes you have, are bringing out the best in the women leaders around you, that they can fulfill what you collectively believe is God's call on their life.
Yeah.
And is your plan working? Do you know what I mean? Are your systems working?
Right.
And I hear a lot about what we don't do, but I don't hear what we do actually do.
Yeah. And
I think it's an issue because, I mean, when when we hear the surge of stories from Me Too, which we know began way before when Tarana Burke coined that phrase. I mean, it goes back ages. Mm-hmm. But when we see the surge in the popular culture about it and you hear the stories and then you see church too, there are issues.
Yes.
There are issues. When we look at pay, when you have an honest conversation with women leaders about pay, Christian women leaders about pay, there are issues.
Yeah.
And it's like, guys, what are we doing? Yep. And when I say guys, I often mean generically. Brits often say guys referring to men and women. I'm like, what's going on here? So I think that's one reason. And when we look at the change in culture, I feel the gospel is always relevant. I think God is relevant. So I'm not saying this to make it more relevant, but women are surging in the workplace in terms of the amount and in education. That has implications. And so how are we looking at the culture and looking at the world around us and empowering people to live out what they're called to do? Yeah. And silence doesn't do it. And assuming that every woman is going to get married and have kids and that's what it looks like doesn't do it either.
Yeah. You use the word disempowerment.
Yeah.
Like talk about that phrase a little bit, because that's a real, I don't know that I've ever taken that phrase and used it. Maybe just because I haven't thought about it that way. Mm-hmm. Talk about that word. I love that. I don't love it. I love the description.
Yeah.
How it creates a clear picture of what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think when I was thinking about writing the book and thinking about wanting to empower leaders, I thought of why, and the why was at events like we've been at and conferences, I've often met women in bathrooms weeping. And I've met them weeping over this sense of or coming up and talking to me after weeping saying, how do I get to do this? And they weren't necessarily talking about speaking on a stage, actually. Very few of them were. Some of them were, but some of them were like, I just kind of written this off and thought I can never do it. Then I see something or I hear something and it catalyzes me and it makes me wonder how I'm going to get there. And the frustration of wanting to be faithful, but being afraid that by articulating your vision, you're seen as too ambitious, too much, not enough, problematic, arrogant, etc., etc. So there had been these women who have been hiding their gifts and their call and calling it humility, or guys who are wanting to empower the women in their sphere, be it their spouse, their daughter, their colleagues on their team, and thinking, what is a way, knowing that their stories are different and wanting to find tangible, healthy ways to see those women raised up and realize their potential, and thinking, it's looking like slim pickings around here. How are we going to do this? Mm-hmm. How are we going to actively invest in people? And so I wanted to talk about disempowerment because it's not like we're starting from a kind of place of, okay, women are sitting down, let's get up and do something. It's actually because our systems and our practices sometimes actively take away opportunities and environments for them realizing their calling.
Yeah.
Even with the best will in the world.
Yeah. So what would you say to a leader who's going, okay, I want to take a step forward in this. Mm-hmm. I want to, what are one or two practical things that you would say to leaders to just start the process if they haven't? It's not that they've been rude or disingenuous, but they go, I don't know where to start to just build this conversation into a better place, build a system into a better place.
There are two initial things that I would encourage every leader to do. One is to ask the women in their community. And say without consequence, and I would choose women on staff, but also women who are professionals, who are leaders in their community, and say, how do you experience your leadership development and growth here? What's missing? And the thing is, because of the power distance, sometimes you might have to explicitly say, hey, I'm asking, and I don't have to like what I hear. And I know, and I've said this to guys before. I remember talking to our board one time about it, saying, I know you guys are great guys and you're for the women rising up and all that kind of stuff. I know it. However, you've got to remember, in our wider culture, we're hearing lots of voices all the time. So when you think you're saying it loud, it comes out like a whisper. Yeah. Just because you said it once 3 years ago, saying, talk to me anytime, doesn't mean that anybody heard that. And I would say when you're inviting those women's conversations, the tools for listening might be an anonymous survey, it might be in conversation. Make sure it's not like they're all make sure different marital statuses, different generations, different ethnicities, because then that'll give you the full, just like when you're gathering data, you want good data. So you want robust data.
Yeah. And it can't be a rhetorical question.
No, it cannot.
That's even more hurtful. If you go in with your plan already in place. Yeah. And you're just kind of trying to get buy-in, that's the opposite of what we're talking about in a sense. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It can't just be kind of this isn't a philosophical experience for me.
Right.
And for the women in your community. This isn't wouldn't it be wonderful? I don't want to just call people leaders. I don't want to say women leader. I want them to be leaders. That's great and all. And I believe all of that. But does that deliver on your Sunday morning?
Yeah.
Or in the things you celebrate, are those people there? Yeah. And the things that are intuitively or explicitly seen as meaningful leadership, decision-making leadership, are they there?
Yeah, that's good.
You know what I mean? That's where it matters. So the first thing I would say is the listening in and gathering the data, because it's going to look different for our different communities, for sure. And then the second thing I would say, what does it look like to have a pipeline where women are receiving the same degree of intentional investment as the guys are? Mm. And what are the spaces where where like almost to do an observation? So, it may be that you guys play golf and that's where the relational connections happen. Well, if that woman doesn't play golf, where does the connection happen?
Totally.
Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that as a criticism. I'm not saying don't play golf. Please hear me. I'm just saying, ask yourself, what are the meaningful spaces? Now, understandably, there are a number who, and this is the tender one. There are a number who say, I want to be respectful of boundaries. I'm not doing one-on-one time with women. Right. And I hear that, but I have two questions on that and say, what does that communicate to that woman? I remember hearing a woman say to me, I'm tired of being seen as a sexual threat. Mm. I just want to get on and be faithful in my leading. I want to be a good leader on it. And I just thought, dang, do you know what I mean? It was that sort of thing. And
because everybody understands the sentiment and the protection and actually trying to serve them as well.
Absolutely. But there's also a cost. Thing. There is a cost for women in this. Yeah. And so I'm not going to argue with the conversation at all. But I'm saying, absolutely, if you really believe that, so what are we doing to make sure then that doesn't cost you a generation of vital women leaders? And it may be that you mentor them in groups, or that you work out mentoring vehicles. It may be that you find out other ways of doing it. But let's not just end the conversation with, this is what we don't do.
Right.
Let's think of what we actually will do, because we value because we value our relationships and I get for our leaders, we're not just doing it for us, we're doing it for the women that we're raising up as well.
That's right.
But again, what are we doing to actively raise those leaders up to the place? Again, I hear there's a framework of theological conviction. Right. What are we doing to raise them up to the place that we believe they can be? Because if we don't do that, what's happening inadvertently is the guys around us are getting the leadership stuff, which is caught and not taught. Yeah. You're getting to see them and their characters in your side, and you're saying it's all about relationship. And it's true. It's just that they've had access to different levels of relationship than the women have. Yeah. So we've got to find ways around that and think through how we do that. Yeah. And it's hard. It is hard. But then raising up leaders is hard.
It doesn't matter. Like, it's hard. And one of the things I remember when I speak on life-giving leadership, one of the first things I say about why people aren't is because it's harder and it requires more from you. Yeah. At the end of the day, that's why there aren't as many as people think. And I remember at Catalyst, we moved into an office, and I was given an office, but my door, if it was closed, it didn't have a window or anything. And but two of my three VPs were females, and I wanted to make sure they always felt safe. Yeah. But we have to meet one-on-one. We have to have time. I'm going to invest in you as deep as I'm going to invest in anybody. Yeah. And so we I had a window put in there so we can one. I mean, I'm still operating under a framework of loving them, loving my wife, those kind of things. Yeah. But also recognizing you're in in the circle with me, no matter like what that looks like. So I'm curious, Joe, because you and Chris, how long have you and Chris been married?
17 years.
Come on. We're on 18. Maybe 19. Shoot, I just remember. Don't tell anybody. I think this year's 19, Joe. Okay. But you've got two daughters. Yeah. And you're trying to raise them in a follow Jesus mindset, but also you're a leader. Like what are one or two of the things you've said as you've raised your girls, as they're, they're in high school? What does that look like when they start stepping out on their own? What's one or two things you've tried to kind of put in the bedrock of their soul?
Yeah. I mean, I think we do a lot in terms of asking them what their ideas are. My husband was a pastor, and then he was an engineer first. He's like original Renaissance man. He was an engineer when we met. He became a pastor for a while, and then he went back into the corporate space. And so he gets them thinking of like money and stocks and shares and investments and understanding the world around them. He gets them like saying, okay, I'm going to teach you how this car works, and you're going to change the world. All the practical things like that, but also the landscape of the world and stuff, and saying, okay, like biographies and stuff like that. And then we say, like, with their ideas, like, what idea do you have? Like, they started a business when they were 9 called Poop Patrol, where they picked up the poop in the neighborhood because they wanted them. And
I'd hire them right now. Are you kidding me?
We do the do so you don't have to, I think it was called, or something. And they made bank in the neighborhood. But we don't make them do those things forever. We kind of say, okay, what ideas do you have? So a lot of it is validating their ideas.
Yes,
because one of the things I see with women leaders is second guessing their ideas. There are churches not planted, there are businesses not started, there are books not written, there are non-profits not birthed because they're lying in seed form in women's ideas that are terrified of being too ambitious, terrified of being too much. So I've wanted to spend a lot of time saying to you, your ideas matter, your voice matters. And then when situations come up at school, I often say to them, do you want to deal with it or do you want me to deal with it? And give them choice.
Yeah.
And there are issues that have come up either with teachers or with fellow people, and things that have, I'm not going to micromanage. I'm not going to be up in, like, my friend said this, I'm like, deal with your business. But if it's something which is a big deal, I say to them, do you want me to deal with this? Because this is the level which would require parental involvement. This is an issue. Like if a racism issues come up or whatever, I'm like, and it's often that, to be honest, it's those sorts of levels that have come up, or a kind of bullying, kind of that kind of issue. I said, what do you want me to do? I said, because this is what I would do. But this is what you can do, and I will coach you through it. Yeah. And I say, if there's a point where actually it needs an adult, and I will be involved, but I will talk you through why the adult's involved, all that kind of stuff. But I will give you agency. You have agency to make the first move. Mm-hmm. And so we often do things like that. And there have been a couple of environments where I said to, when I needed to get involved, and then the teacher and I have said, okay, these are the options. We can do this, or the child can do this. And I'll go back to them and say, okay, what do you want to do? Here's how this, and I say, this is the cost. Either way, count the cost and make the choice. Yep. Yeah. And because I'm just always wanting to talk through. And then, sometimes we have family meetings, like particularly in this current kind of moment we're in culturally, and say, this is what it means. This is what it looks like for business. This is what it looks like financially. This is what it's going to require of all of us. And obviously, because they're 13 and 14, there is capacity for those sorts of things at this stage. And we try and make sure we're kind of calibrating it for their mind and their mindset and their worldview. But the ongoing goal is to keep on getting them thinking and giving them permission to think, permission to dream, reminding them that, like, laying that foundation, that's important and that they can do this has been really important for us.
I love that. And, I have 2 boys, but I think that's exactly what I would want to teach my boys. And I think that goes back to our point. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. I remember when we were talking about, Christine Kane came and did a 1-day with us. And I remember telling her, I was like, I've never felt called to do a female leadership conference. I just do leadership conferences. Mm-hmm. And we have men, women. Yeah. It's just, now what I love about this conversation, Joe, is we cannot ignore, there are uniquenesses. Yeah. That's the thing. Leadership is leadership. 80% of what we teach, 80% of these principles, what you just said about teaching your daughters is very similar to what I would teach my sons. Mm-hmm. At the same time, there is a nuance that lays over top of that. And you have, absolutely, but like you were mentioning, the racial conversations on top of, like it's something you have to wrestle with, that's unique to your family, that you continue to have to fight for, because that is a nuance to the leadership thing. And I think that's a big part of it. And the way you handle it, Joe, is it really is pretty spectacular. And I'm grateful to watch it. All right. I've got a couple quick lightning questions for you. You think you're ready for this?
Bring it on.
You don't even know, Joe. Here we go. Best marriage advice that you and Chris have been given?
Oh, I think I think it was, when we did our marriage counseling, at the beginning, we did 2 tracks. The first track we did was was just the general stuff. And then there was one with a leader who worked specifically with interracial couples.
Yep.
And she gave us this spreadsheet of and it just had one word on it. And it would be like education, discipline, whatever, and just say the first thing that came to mind. And I think the advice, it wasn't even actually what she did was, it was just the kind of, you come from different cultures and you're building a third culture.
That's right.
And I think that's true for all of us in different ways anyways, but she gave us this kind of, obviously this ethnic nuance of me being of a Nigerian heritage. Although you've grown up in the same country, you've lived very different stories, different socioeconomic groups, different relational groups, that kind of thing, different family systems. And so I think what I took away from it was the importance of hearing, like even when you use a word like community or family or love or forgiveness, what you're both actually hearing.
Wow.
and the nuance of that. So I don't know how to coin that into a phrase, but it has hit us again and again through the years as we, in our married life, but also as we connect with people.
That's really good, Joe. Gosh, we could talk about that forever because there's so many layers to that.
Yeah.
In so many ways. All right. Favorite movie of all time?
Oh, I'm still on Black Panther, man. I'm still on it.
What a great movie. We just watched that the other night. It was just on TV and Carrie and I got sucked back in it's so good.
You're there all over again.
So good.
So much richness.
All right. I want to save this third one for last because I want to talk about your podcast for a second as we wrap up. But okay, this is just for you, Joe. I haven't asked anybody else this, but I think this is unique to you. Give me the one food item that you miss from the UK and then the one thing that you love that's in the US that food-wise. You got anything specific come to mind?
One of the things I love, is American breakfast. Just all of it.
It is better, isn't it?
Oh, it's just a whole
because the bacon in the UK is not good.
I do miss the bacon though.
Really?
I do. It's taken me a few years to get into it. Tyler, I'm a comfort food eater.
Me too.
So whenever I go to England, I do go to a curry house.
Okay.
I go to a curry house and I get I get everything, to be honest. But do you know what I mean? It's like, let's all do this. Like whenever I go to my in-laws, they live in the north of England, and there are some really great curry houses in the Leeds and Bradford area. I'm like, take me to the curry house, even if we've got like 3 hours. I'm like, take me to the curry house.
Yeah.
That's what I want. So I think that is probably my and I found curry houses here, but
different, isn't it?
I'm telling you. But all of your audience, if ever you go to England and you want to try the food, yes, you can go to fish and chips. Obviously, it's far superior than anything you've ever had.
That's
but
fact.
You want to go to a curry house, and you're going to have a chicken tikka masala, or you're going to have, or if you're into hot food, you're going to have a vindaloo or whatever. And all I'm going to say is 2 words: you're welcome.
Wow. So I've been over. My friends are the Gambles, Steve and Charlotte, and they're in that Bradford area.
Exactly, they're in the area.
He kept trying to get me to go to a curry house, and I was like, it's not really my style,
dude.
And now I feel regret and remorse.
Yeah. Tell them you're sorry. They were trying to bless you, sir. They were trying to wash your feet in the times of ministry with that food. All
right. So Joe, you've got a podcast called Lead Stories.
Yeah.
Again, it goes back to the fact you love leadership. What's the one piece of advice, that leadership advice that's kind of lived with you that you wish you could give to young leaders as they step into leadership? I know there's a million.
I would say face your junk. Be intentional about facing the junk of your life. Face it in all its ugliness. Face it in all its fear and pain. Face it now. And you might feel that disqualifies you from leadership. You might feel it pushes you to the back or it makes it take longer. This will make you a healthier leader. And it will give you greater longevity. Yeah, that's great. So tell me a little bit or tell our listeners about your podcast. Yeah, our podcast is me and my friend Steph O'Brien, and it's a leadership podcast. Every week we just talk about different issues with leadership, and we say leadership is about being intentional with your influence. And so we're always encouraging people. We do say, we're like, I don't know, for those of you who speak Enneagram, we're both 8s.
Okay.
And so it's probably quite an intense thing. And we're trying, it's quite an intense experience. And we keep on trying to make it more lighthearted. And then we're like we had this I mean, we had this series called Rock Bottom, and then it's like In the Valley, and then should I stay or should I go? And
oh gosh. Yeah, Joe, I'm not, as a 2, mostly 7, I'm not listening to your podcast.
But I think we wanted to, and we say it's like there's a organization, the Riveter, who does all these co-working spaces, and they say built by women for everyone, and we're like, that's our vibe for it. It's built by women, but it's for everybody, and we're just talking about the stuff of leadership, both organizational leadership and self-leadership, but just how we can be proactive and intentional. We wanted to make, like we wanted to make leadership accessible, because we know that there are leaders in the making and leaders in the happening everywhere who don't get to go to all the training things and all that kind of stuff, and we wanted to put tools and tactics and ideas into people's hands. So that's the goal.
All right, Joe, you're the best. Ready to Rise is out. The book is out. Any way that people can, like, if there's special things you got for them, like, where should they go to find out more?
Go to my website, joesaxton.com, and you will find out about all the goodies there. And I would say, it's the store, it centers women unapologetically, but it is for everybody. Yeah. Just in the same way that I've read multiple books by men and received so many good things and so much things that have informed my leadership, and I've been given insight when I'm leading amongst men because of reading their stories. I want to encourage you, if you're not a woman, still get it, because makeup half the sky. They're definitely in your congregations. They're definitely in your organizations and your companies. Yeah. And for those of us who are looking for a tool to begin the conversation on what you need, maybe you both reading the same book and talking and saying, hey, is this your experience? Have you known anybody who felt these things? And it gives you a neutral space to start those conversations, so it's not you did or she did. There you go.
That's great. Well, Joe, one of the questions I get consistently when I get to go around the country is, who are some of your favorite leaders you've interacted with through your time at Catalyst and other places? Mm-hmm. And I think yours has made the list once or twice. Not every time. I'm just kidding. Joe, you know this. You are an amazing leader, and I just think you do an amazing job. I'm so grateful that God brought us friends, and I love getting to watch you lead. I'm so proud of you for this book. Thank you for sticking into that conversation. And thanks for being part of the podcast.
Thank you so much. So fun to be with you.
I mean, seriously, what else can I say? I mean, Joe, I hope you're inspired by Joe Saxton. Male, female, doesn't matter. She's a moving and inspiring leader. I'm grateful that for some of you who don't know Joe Saxton, now you do. And you need to follow Joe. Here again, joesaxton.com, kind of home place for everything you want to know about Joe. All the socials, you can go to @JoeSaxton. There's no E, so it's Joe, Joe, Saxton. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to pray for Joe. Now, we don't need to pray for her as much in these next few months, but she lives in Minnesota, and it gets cold there, if you didn't know that. And so we're going to pray for her when the wintertime comes around, that she has a good year and that she can live with it. So for those of you that are still with us, again, joesaxton.com, go hang in there. I want to talk about two things real quick as we wrap up. One is that as I record this, and as next week goes, as this goes live on May the 12th, so I had to think about it for a second, even though it's right in front of me, May the 12th, I can't believe that what was aired on TV right now on ESPN today was opening day of South Korean highest level of baseball. I'm not against it. My brother lives in South Korea. I'm for it. It is just fascinating how deprived of sports we are, that we're excited to have something live on TV. And so at the end of the day, it's pretty awesome that we get to watch that and celebrate sport in general. The other thing is, occasionally I want to talk, maybe consistently, not just occasionally, but what's kind of on my mind right now. And what's on my mind right now in terms of leadership is something that just came out of a conversation I had with a future guest. And it really is just this concept of faith in the midst of this uncertain times. Many of us can fall away from our faith in these times. Many of us can lean on our own skills. We try to take control of the things we can't control. And I remember Craig Rochelle recently talked about how him doing that consistently put him in a very sick place, health-wise, emotionally-wise, basically led towards a breakdown. And he talked about this in a message a few weeks ago. And I think the truth in that is when you try to grip things, whether it's in leadership or life, that aren't yours to grip, that aren't yours to hold, that will crush you because you're completely outside of your control, it will take you down. And as leaders and bringing life to others, you've got to learn how to surrender. I have to learn how to surrender. And I think it goes back to even what we talked about in this episode with Joe. No matter what position you're in, no matter what gender, socioeconomic status you have, race, whatever the thing is that you've been handed, for you to live that with a life of surrender, palms up, as Bob Goff always liked to say, like, keep your palms up because you can't get super defensive in that scenario. And I just think for all of us today, we need to hear that as leaders, is that we need to live this week with our palms up, saying, Lord, we do not get it, but our hands are surrendered to you because we trust you. And at the end of the day, you are the one that we need to trust and put our faith and hope in. Our faith, you like that? That's like faith and hope combined. FOPE. It's FOPE, everybody. That's a new word for the Life Giving Leader podcast. For those of you listening, why don't you just start using it more often and make people look at you weird? So we're all going to have FOPE this week, faith and hope. So, hey, I'm grateful you listened. If you like this, again, share with your friends. Maybe go on and rate it. And let's keep building this community together. Again, next week, what? We got Kevin Olasola from Pentatonics, and he might have done a little beatbox for you. Did you feel that? That felt very Beastie Boys of me, like the way I went into that. So hey, all you listeners, thank you so much. Let's connect on social media and hang out a little bit, and I'll see you next week.